What if Earth wasn't round at all? What if everything you've ever known, gravity, oceans, the sky above you, was built on a completely flat world? Imagine waking up one morning, stepping outside, and instead of seeing a curved horizon, you see an endless flat surface stretching forever in every direction. No curve, no drop, just a massive disk floating in space. At first, it feels normal. Cities still stand. The sun still rises. Life continues. But very quickly, things begin to break. If Earth were flat, it wouldn't be a spinning ball. It would be a massive disk, thousands of kilometers wide, floating silently in space like a giant cosmic plate. No curve, no horizon bending away, just an endless surface stretching outward in every direction. But that shape changes everything. There would be no solid center pulling everything evenly inward like gravity does on a round planet. Instead, gravity would behave in strange, unstable ways, or possibly not exist at all. Objects might fall straight down in some places, drift sideways in others, or slowly slide toward the center of the world like water toward a drain. Mountains wouldn't stay tall. Oceans wouldn't stay put. Even the air wouldn't know where to settle. And that's when the real problem begins. Without stable gravity holding everything in balance, the planet would start tearing itself apart. Water would creep across the surface. Land would slowly shift. The atmosphere would thin and drift. The simple act of standing still might become impossible in certain regions. What feels solid and safe right now would slowly turn into a world that can't hold itself together. And this instability would be just the beginning of Earth's collapse. On a round Earth, gravity pulls everything toward the center, holding oceans, air, and land perfectly in place. But on a flat Earth, gravity wouldn't know what to do. It could pull straight down, crushing everything toward the middle like a giant invisible press. Or it might pull sideways, dragging oceans, air, and even continents slowly across the surface. Or worse, gravity might not exist at all. If gravity pulled toward the center, the planet would begin to deform almost immediately. Oceans would slowly slide inward like water in a tilted bowl. Rivers would reverse direction and begin flowing uphill. Entire continents would start creeping, centimeter by centimeter, toward the center of the world. Mountains would crack. Coastlines would disappear. Cities near the edge wouldn't just be isolated, they'd be doomed. Water would drain away from them. The air would thin. The ground beneath their feet would slowly crumble and collapse. Over time, the edges of the world would become dry, empty wastelands. Stickman stands near the edge, watching the ocean slowly pull away from the shore like it's being swallowed by something unseen. The sea level drops, the wind grows silent, and the ground beneath him begins to crack. Water cannot curve. On a flat Earth, oceans wouldn't wrap neatly around the planet the way they do now. Instead, water would spread outward until gravity slowly dragged it toward the center. The result would be catastrophic. The middle of the world would turn into a massive, endless ocean, growing deeper and deeper as more water flowed inward. Meanwhile, the edges of the planet would begin to dry out, transforming into cracked, lifeless deserts. Coastal cities wouldn't exist anymore. Coastlines would constantly shift, disappear, or drown without warning. Sea levels would become completely unpredictable. One year, a city could be underwater. The next year, it could be hundreds of meters above the nearest ocean. Waves wouldn't behave normally either. Without a curved planet and gravitational balance, tides would vanish completely. And without tides, marine ecosystems would collapse. Coral reefs would die. Currents would stop moving nutrients, and entire food chains would break apart. Eventually, the oceans would face two possible fates, either flooding nearly the entire world or slowly draining toward the center, leaving behind vast, cracked seabeds where life once thrived. What was once blue and full of life would become silent, dry, and empty. On a spherical Earth, the sun lights up half the planet at once, creating smooth transitions between day and night. But on a flat Earth, that system completely breaks down. There's no curve for light to wrap around. No natural way for sunrise or sunset to happen. To make day and night even possible, the sun would have to behave like a giant moving spotlight, hovering above the surface and shining straight downward. As it moves, it would light up only the area directly beneath it, leaving everything else in darkness. But that creates a whole new set of problems. The sun would appear to change size in the sky, growing larger as it moves closer and shrinking as it drifts away. Shadows would stretch in unnatural directions, sometimes miles long. Temperatures would swing violently. Areas directly under the sun would burn under intense heat, while regions only a short distance away would freeze in darkness. Stickman watches the sun hover above him like a massive glowing flashlight, cooking the ground beneath his feet. He turns around and sees the horizon swallowed by darkness just a few hundred kilometers away. No gentle sunrise, no warm sunset, just lights snapping on and off. On a fat Earth, day and night wouldn't feel natural at all. They'd feel artificial, unstable, and terrifyingly unpredictable. Earth's atmosphere works because gravity pulls gases evenly around the planet, wrapping the world in a stable blanket of air. But on a flat Earth, that balance completely breaks down. Without a curved surface to hold it in place, air would slowly drift outward, spreading thinner and thinner as it moves away from the center. Over time, oxygen would begin leaking into space. Air pressure would drop near the edges, making every breath harder than the last. Storms would grow violent and unpredictable as air rushed across the surface trying to equalize itself. Winds would reach extreme speeds, ripping across the land with nothing to stop them. Near the center of the world, pressure would become crushing, heavy enough to make movement exhausting. But near the edges, the opposite would happen. The air would become so thin that breathing would feel like trying to inhale through a straw. Stickman takes a step away from the center and feels it immediately. Each breath grows lighter, weaker. His chest tightens. The sky above him looks the same, but the air no longer supports him. With every step toward the edge, survival becomes harder, until breathing itself becomes impossible. Without a spinning globe, Earth would lose the systems that keep its climate alive. No rotation means no stable weather patterns, no jet streams to move warm and cold air, no seasons to regulate temperature. Everything that makes Earth livable would fall apart. One side of the world would burn non-stop under constant heat, the sun beating down without relief. The other side would freeze in permanent darkness, locked in endless night. There would be no balance, only extremes. Rain would pour endlessly in some regions, flooding entire continents, while other areas would never see a single drop again. Agriculture would collapse almost immediately. Crops depend on predictable seasons, sunlight, and rainfall. Without them, food production would fail. Fields would turn to dust. Livestock would die. Famine would spread faster than any storm. As food disappears, entire civilizations would be forced to move. Billions of people would begin migrating toward the narrow, habitable ring, the thin strip of land where temperature and air pressure are barely survivable. Cities would pile on top of each other, resources would vanish, conflict would become unavoidable. On a flat Earth, survival wouldn't depend on technology or intelligence, only on how close you are to the last place life can exist. On a flat Earth, modern technology would collapse almost instantly. GPS wouldn't work because satellites rely on stable orbits around a spherical planet. Without curvature, there's nothing for them to orbit. Time zones would make no sense. Noon could happen in one city, while total darkness covers another only a short distance away. Even something as simple as telling time would become chaos. Flights would be nearly impossible to calculate. Pilots depend on Earth's rotation and curvature to navigate. On a flat world, planes would constantly need to adjust altitude just to stay level, burning massive amounts of fuel and risking disaster with every trip. Long-distance travel would become slow, dangerous, or completely impossible. And space travel? That idea would disappear entirely. There would be no stable orbit, no satellites circling above, no space stations, no communication network floating overhead. Weather tracking would vanish. Navigation would fail. Global communication would collapse. Stickman pulls out his phone, waiting for a signal, but the screen stays blank. No GPS, no internet, no connection to the world beyond what he can see. On a flat Earth, humanity wouldn't just lose technology. It would lose the invisible systems that hold modern life together, forever. If Earth were flat, the sky itself would stop making sense. Stars wouldn't shift naturally as you travel. Constellations would look completely different depending on where you stand, breaking the patterns humans have observed for thousands of years. The night sky would no longer feel infinite or distant. It would feel artificial. The moon's phases wouldn't line up with anything we understand. Sometimes it would appear too large, sometimes too small. Eclipses wouldn't work at all because there would be no natural alignment between the sun, the moon, and the Earth. The predictable rhythm of the sky would vanish. And the more you travel, the stranger everything becomes. Stars would move in ways that don't match physics. Some would disappear entirely. Others would seem frozen in place. The sky would stop feeling like space and start feeling like a ceiling. A vast, silent dome stretching overhead, cold, distant, unnatural. Stickman looks up and feels it immediately. The sky no longer feels endless. It feels close, controlled, almost like the world itself is a massive enclosure, and he's trapped inside it. Stickman stands at the edge of the world, staring into the endless void below. There's no horizon, no curve, just silence stretching forever. From here, the idea of a flat Earth almost feels peaceful, simple, easy to understand, comforting even. But the truth is far darker. Because without a round Earth, nothing works the way it should. Gravity fails. Oceans collapse inward or vanish entirely. The air thins and drifts away. Temperatures spiral out of control. And life, as we know it, cannot survive. A round planet isn't a coincidence. It's the only shape that allows balance. The only shape that holds oceans in place, keeps air wrapped around the surface, and lets gravity do its job. It's the reason seasons exist, the reason water flows, the reason we can breathe at all. Stickman takes one last look into the void and realizes something terrifying. The Earth isn't round because it looks nice. It's round because any other shape would mean the end of everything. Our planet isn't designed for comfort. It's designed for survival.